books, translation and media culture, and more recently, Creativity and Academic Activism, Instituting Cultural Studies, co-edited by Professor Matthew Hall. So I will keep my remarks very brief because I want to hear Professor Meaghan. But I just quickly wanted to say that in addition to these very important works, there are some influential essays that when I read, that to me exemplify some of the best works in culture studies in Asia. And the one that I would like to mention is The Future of Parochialism, where she rests the notion of parochialism away from an attitude of negativity or opposition to cosmopolitanism, and invites us to rethink of parochialism as a matter of our locals, or as she said, living our locals. And I'm just very briefly going to quote something because I think it's relevant to the kind of work that Interasia, in my understanding, tries to do. She says, and I quote, "To think about parochialism involves taking inhabitant perspectives into account, along with migratory and mobile, tracing the sediments of culture as well as the flows, and remembering that parochialism itself, or I'm adding, can be a portable way of dwelling," unquote. So basically, I kind of thought this was a useful quote for this forum, because once again, we see the importance of engaging our local context without being frozen by them, while simultaneously connecting intellectually, politically to other locals in Asia, and which to me has been a constant thread and a sensibility in the Interasia Cultural Studies project. So Professor Morris's talk is on the future of losing battles, reflections of 25 years of Interasia. So again, on behalf of Communication and New Media Department, please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much, RAKA. When I hear something like that, I feel like I should have a grey beard. And I guess it's a successful resolution to one sort of losing battle that I still don't. One day I may grow one, but right now I do not have a grey beard. The remarks that I'm going to make are continuous in some ways with what Ben White presented, but I want to develop some related points with very concrete reference points, in other words, pictures, something to get a grip on. My own capacity to think significantly about the future is and always has been very limited. It's always seemed really big to me, and the genre of like masculine power projection forward is not one that I have ever been very good at. I have nothing against it. I usually don't believe a word I read when I read a manifesto, but I can enjoy it if it's beautifully written. It isn't my thing. But dealing with the future for me has primarily over the past 20 years been a matter of teaching. Teaching is the absolute foundation of my own relationship to cultural studies. And I've spent more years in low-end universities with mediocre and disadvantaged students than I have in elite institutions. Because I find that really exciting. There is nothing more rewarding than spending 3 years with somebody and seeing them at the end of 3 years realize that they have the capacity to do things. When usually they come in to a place like Lingnan with the sense that they're really not very good, or else they might be at Hong Kong University. They're usually really, really good, and to give them at the end of a period of teaching the capacity to feel able to shape a future that they could not imagine before, that to me is a real way of dealing with the future. teaching too because I think it's never a losing battle. You might win some, you might lose some, but there's a difference